Welcome back. It is our second lecture of the course History of Bengal Art and Architecture. In our previous lecture, we covered what is Bengal and its geographical extent. Further, we have learned about the people of this territory and their features. Before going into depth of architectural historical analysis, we need to revisit the political history of Bengal for a better understanding. As the length of the political history of Bengal is too long, we are going to divide it into two lectures. This lecture will cover the political history of Bengal from ancient times before the advent of Islam in Bengal. The next one, which will be presented at the later phase, will cover from the advent of Islam to the independence of Bangladesh. As we learned from the previous lecture on the geography of Bengal, about 80% of the Bengal plain is on the low-lying flat land, which is not very elevated from the water level. Historically, almost every ancient city in this region developed along with one of its numerous rivers. The annual floods and change of the course of river are a very common phenomenon for this region. This change of course is so rapid and so devastating that a city on the bank of a river could be washed away within a few days. Much of the material evidence of Bengal's glorious past has been washed away by the annual floods, the change of the course of the river, or through climatic alterations. On the other hand, due to the lack of availability of stone, local building material such as wood and brick are more commonly used. Naturally, they are not strong enough to withstand the time and the climate. Though significant work has been done in archaeology, till now most of the ancient history of Bengal is based on mythological materials or oral history. According to Persian chronicles, someone Ham, with the permission of Prophet Noah, colonized the south from Persia. Ham deputed 5 sons, Hind, Sindh, Habas, Janaz, Barbar and Nuba, in all directions to colonize, and the tract that each of them colonized was called after him. Hind, the eldest son of Ham, came to the country of Hindustan, and it was so named after him. Hind had 4 sons, Punjab, Bang, Dakin, Naharwal, and every tract that was colonized by each were called after him too. If Noah is a historical figure, then this story could be safely placed in somewhere 4,200 years from the present day, based on the flood records. And we find that Bang, the second son of Hind, colonized the country of Bengal, but till now we don't have any strong archaeological or anthropological proof of this story. The earliest evidence of settlement in Bengal is still too brief for a clear understanding of the time. Yet there is a little doubt that its origin is linked with the first growth of agriculture and trade in eastern India. Two most recent archaeological excavation at Wadi Batishar and Pandurajar DV shows so many signs of early civilization but need further study for a clear understanding of the time. As far as we know, recently archaeologists discovered a pit dwelling similar to copper age of 4,000 years old at the Wadi Batishar region of North Sindhi. This site is located near the old course of Brahmaputra river, which suggests it was probably Brahmaputra river valley civilization. However, we have very limited information until now about this site. At Pandurajar DV of West Bengal, archaeologists have revealed trace of a 3,005 years old civilization similar to Harappa Mohenjo-daro. The name is also associated with the king Pandu mentioned in Mahabharata. Mahastangad of Bogura shows evidence from the 700 BCE parallel to the Vedic period. Though it is believed that the culturally and ethnicity-wise the people of Bengal were different from the early Vedic people, it is further believed that the Vedic people come to Bengal from the west, most probably during the declination of Indus Valley civilization. During the declination of Indus Valley civilization, its citizens may move towards the cities of Ganges valleys following the Ganges and its river networks. This is the time when most Vedas were composed in the northern part of the Indian subcontinent. According to the DNA mapping on human migration, the people of Bengal felt the tide of Aryanization much later than the northwestern part of the Indian subcontinent. That part of India felt the Aryan influence well before the advent of the Common Era, and the Vedic people are most probably those Aryan peoples. Anthropologically, it is evident that there were human beings in this land before the Aryan people. Further, the Vedic text referred to the people of Bengal as Dashu or demons. At this point, we can sum up that before the Aryan arrived in this region, there were civilizations on the Ganges and Brahmaputra valley. Though we have very little archaeological proof of their existence, there were cities at least at Wariboteshwar, Panduraja Devi and Mahastangad. The Vedic and Buddhist texts divide northern India into 16 great nations or Mahajanapad. Historically, that could be placed at about 600 BCE. Later we see the four Mahajanapad, Magad, Kosal, Bhatsa and Avanti engaged in the struggle for supremacy from the 6th century BCE to 4th century BCE. Ultimately, Magad emerged as the most powerful and prosperous kingdom in North India. Historians believe that Magad was in a better position compared to its competitors because, firstly, its strategic geographical location puts in it a better position compared to its rivals. Secondly, it had a wealth of natural resources, especially iron, which made them equipped with effective weapons. Finally, the fertile Gangetic plain helps it produce an abundance of agricultural product. We find more about the time on the Mahabharata. It's described 5 eastern Mahajanapad as Ango, Bhango, Kalingo, Pundro and Shuhma. According to the epic, the founder of those kingdoms were all adopted sons of a king named Vali of Magadha. Lack of archaeological evidence again makes it difficult to fix any date from this epic. However, it is certain that the four of the kingdom except Kalingo belong to the ancient territory of Bengal. We may remember from our previous lecture that in ancient time, Bengal had many Janapad with individual identity at different times. Most probably, at the earlier stage when Magadha became the first kingdom in this region, it was included those 5 eastern Mahajanapad with its capital at Magad. So, many parts of Bengal were in the control of Magad during the 6th century BCE. Magad was ruled by the Haryanka dynasty and the Shishunaga dynasty for about 200 years. It was the time when Buddha was alive and Buddhism emerged. Later, the crown of Magadha was passed to the Nanda dynasty, who ruled it for a brief 100 years, but it was a significant period. They inherited the large kingdom of Magad and built up a vast army to extend it to a distant frontier. At their greatest extent, the Nanda Emperor extended from Bihar and Bengal in the east to eastern Punjab in the west. In 326 BC, the army of Alexander the Great approached the boundary of Magad. Alexander the Great's Macedonian and Persian army conquered some parts of northwestern India. According to the Greek source, Alexander's army was exhausted by their previous warfare and frightened by the prospect of facing yet another giant army of the bank of the Ganges and refused to march further east. Though there is another view about the incident by some historians that one prominent Nanda king, maybe Dhanananda, fought against Alexander's force at the famous battle at Gaugamala on the eastern boundary of Persia. His army remained virtually intact for a long time, and later Alexander's army retreated. The Greek and Roman geographers and historians give the name of the people of this region as Gangaridai and Parasi and call their capital Paliputra, which was Pataliputra in Sanskrit. Most probably, the Gangaridai was a plural form of Gangarida, which means people of Ganga. Prasi from Pracho, which means easterners. Though there are contradictions among the historians about their war strength, it is predicted that they had a vast army of about 20,000 cavalry, 200,000 infantry, 2,000 chariot, and 3,000 elephants. If that was true, it was a great war strength for any nation in the world of the time. The Nanda dynasty had established a methodological collection of tax through their administrative system, and their wealth was well known. To carry out irrigation, they built canals throughout their territory. From the religious point of view, they were neutral at their earlier stage, later followed Buddhism and raised it to a national religion. That is why Buddhism advanced throughout the Magadh region during that time. The Mauryan dynasty ruled Bengal after the Nanda from Magadha. They built a geographically extensive and powerful political and military power. The Mauryan Empire is considered one of the most significant period in Indian history. The Mauryan Empire was founded in 322 BC by Chandragupta Maurya and began rapidly expanding his power towards central and western India. The empire had fully occupied northwestern India, defeating and conquering the areas left by Alexander. Before Chandragupta consolidated power, small regional kingdoms dominated the northern part of the subcontinent, while the Nanda Empire dominated the Gangetic plain. Chandragupta extended his empire from Bengal and Assam in the east to Afghanistan and Baluchistan in the west, to Kashmir and Nepal in the north and the Deccan in the south. He succeeded in bringing together most of the Indian subcontinent. In this way, Chandragupta first unified the region and is considered as the first genuine emperor of India. During the Mauryan dynasty, a strong centralized state with a complex administration was established at Patliputra. The empire was very well governed, with tempered autocracy at the top and democracy at the city and village level. Chandragupta divided the Mauryan empire into administrative districts, which was administered by the closest relatives and most trusted generals. A hierarchical government with a large civil servant group ruled various departments such as trade, taxation, mining, road, irrigation, etc. The topmost officers from those districts directly reported to the Mauryan ruler. The government held trade monopolies and owned slaughterhouse, gambling halls, mines, shipbuilding, spinning and weaving factories, and all, as well as they standardized weight measures and coinage. Chandragupta adopted Jainism, and it is assumed that Jainism had prevailed during his reign. Among the Mauryan rulers, most popular ruler was Ashoka the Great, who was the third emperor of the Mauryan dynasty, who ruled almost all of the Indian subcontinent from 269 BCE to 232 BCE. After several military conquests, he took control over a vast empire that stretched from present-day Pakistan and Afghanistan in the west to Bangladesh and Indian state of Assam in the east, and as far south as northern Kerala and Andhra Pradesh. As a Buddhist follower, Ashok built stupa, sanghoramas, biharas, chaitya halls all over his empire and gave donations to biharas. Ashok's effort for the promotion of Buddhism did play a major role in the propagation of Buddhism both within and outside his empire. He sent his only daughter Sanghamitra and son Mahindra to spread Buddhism in Sri Lanka. Ashok also sent many prominent Buddhist monks to modern Afghanistan, Syria, Persia, Egypt, Greek, Italy, Turkey, Nepal, Bhutan, China, Mongolia, Cambodia, Laos, Myanmar, Thailand, and Vietnam. Ashok's capital was in Pataliputra, and during his reign, urban centers and ports of Bhango, such as Chandraketugad and Tamrlipta, became center of trade, and ships heading for the eastern coast and South India began their voyage from those ports. Ashok ruled for about 37 years and died in 232 BC. Subsequently, a political decline set in and the empire began to break up. This was the first part of the political history of Bengal, which covers the history of Bengal from ancient time to the Mauryan Empire. Thanks for joining.